Good evening Internet, and welcome to a rather hot, flustered and sweaty to the Legends. And tonight we're going to be looking at the second half of my odyssey of transcription that was working my way through Electric Ladyland. Now I've put some of my opinions on the album as a whole in the blog, which you can go and check out. Suffice to say, let's put it this way, when it's good, it's awesome. But there's some stuff I'm going to freely admit I kind of don't get. But throughout it all, the playing is of course sublime, as you would expect from Jimi Hendrix at the absolute peak of his powers. So let's dive straight into this, and we're going to begin with the opening riff, well, yes, the opening solo, I should say, from All Along the Watchtower, which anybody who's ever seen the greatest film in the world ever, which of course With Now and I, will be very, very familiar with. Here we go. Now this is in C sharp minor. The actual chord sequence is C sharp minor, B, A, B, and Jimmy is largely in first position. C sharp minor pentatonic, moving briefly into second position. And so we've got a little pickup phrase here starting on the 5th, that's the G sharp, 13th fret on the G string, which then takes us up to the root on the 14th fret B, which we're going to bend up a whole tone. Then there's a pre-bend bringing that back down. Now what's interesting here is that start that again. So what we've got here is a little pickup phrase. That's 3 notes starting from the G sharp, that's the 5th on the 13th fret of the G, B, the flat 7 on the 12th fret B, and then C sharp, the root note on the 14th fret B. We're going to bend that up a tone, 2, 3, 4, so we're bending the root into the second, and on that 4th bend we're going to give some vibrato. Then up top of that bend, pick it, bring it down to the F sharp on the 11th fret G, sliding up. And notice how the rhythms on those two parts of the phrase kind of echo each other. Da 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 da. Kind of gives it a nice sense of continuity. One of those little touches which you might not be aware of, kind of consciously, but subconsciously is helping to pull all those phrases together. And then we've got back into position 1, minor pentatonic, keeping roughly still to the same rhythmic motif. We're going briefly outside and grabbing the B flat note there on the 11th fret B as part of the hammer-on. And that's not in our key, and you could make a case that Jimmy was maybe going for the B or the A, but it's Jimmy, we make it work. Before finishing off with a 12th fret B, bend into the root note, and then bending again and sliding down. So here we are slowly. And now a little bit more up to speed. And again. Alright, and then moving on, staying with the with nail theme. This is a lick taken from the intro solo to Voodoo, Charles, about a minute in. And this again, this is first position E minor pentatonic, and we're focusing primarily on the magic 3 notes, but this is a great way of looking at how you can expand from a very basic template. We're going to start by bending that 15th fret on the B, so that's flat 7 into root, which we're going to match up with a root note on the 12th fret high E. before coming down and then bending the 14th fret G and pulling off to the 12th fret G down to the root. And then coming up, 12 hammer to 14 on the G and then to the 12th fret B. And then we've got 14th fret G, bend up, bend down, pull off down to the G, down to the root. And then we've got a harmony bend, 14th fret G, 15th fret B, and finishing on the 12th fret G. So that's kind of like the minor third. Almost gives it a major pentatonic flavour out of context, but you put it with the... Yeah, it sounds a bit raucous in that context. Okay, let's change the sound a little bit, and we're going to dial back the volume, I think, and as we dive into Gypsy Eyes. Yeah, I could do a bit more grunt on that. And then, so what we're dealing with here, we're in A minor, pentatonic, and the notes that we're using here are essentially the root on the 7th fret D, the flat 7 on the 5th fret of the D, the flat third bent into the major third, that's C bent up a quarter tone on the 8th fret of the low E, and then you've got the root note there on the low E string at the 5th fret. So this, I'm using this, my thumb to fret that root note, and then so we're going to start this slowly. Got a high note that we're going to slide from, just muted. Slowly. So we've got a high note to slide down from, don't really matter what, and then so you'll notice I'm keeping that right hand moving the whole time, and I'm very much reliant on the fret hand to mute things off. So I know, well, you can see this, but the underside of the fret hand fingers, these bits here, are muting the G, so it doesn't really matter if I happen to hit it when I'm keeping the wrist nice and loose and funky. So slowly one more time. And then if anybody's got a problem with using the thumb to fret the root note, do feel free to use your first finger, but Jimmy would most likely have used his thumb. Some people, primarily from the classical fraternity, find this a little bit of an issue. I would say if it's good enough for Jimmy, it's probably good enough for the rest of us. At least try. Let's get this to try up to speed now. Now that len part is kind of incidental. It's more of a sound effect than anything else, I think. What that is 8th fret B bent up, 5th fret on the high E, and then an open B. And then lastly, let's finish up by looking at the intro to House Burning Down. Now, this has some absolutely superb string bending ideas in it. So we're going to start with... So we're in F sharp minor pentatonic. We're going to start off again, magic 3 notes. And look at some of the characteristic string bendings that Jimmy is doing here. I'm bending up the 17th fret on the B. Then I'm going to do that again. But as I mute the bend at the top, I'm going to roll over to the 16th fret on the G and come back to the 14th fret. Now the way Jimmy would allegedly do it is roll up, but I can't can't get that sound right. So what I'm going to do is support the bend. Bend up with the third finger, and then as we get up to pitch, take my support finger onto the 16th fret G. So let's play through the whole thing. Now the trickiest bit is this bit. 17th fret on the high E, and then you're catching the 17th fret B. Now, so Jimmy will do the finger roll. But you can hear I get the uncomfortable sound of a string clipping. Never been able to get that to work right. So what I'm doing is doing the bend on the B string with the third finger, backed up with the second. Little finger backed up with the first to do the E string. And I rely heavily on the pick hand to get the string muting there. Then we've got a little bit of blues scale. That's my flat 5 on the 17th fret G. Sliding down the 16th fret, that's the 4th, the B, minor third, that's the A. And then we've got a little bit of chromaticism here. 16, 15, 14 on the A, D, back to the A strings. Then sliding up 14 to 16 on the A, that's my 5th, and finishing on the root. There's a nice little perfect cadence there, a sense of completeness. So here we are slowly. Here we are slowly without the cock up. Here we are slowly. Here we are slowly. And now I'm going to try that up to speed, so wish me luck. And there we go. So I hope you've enjoyed that. It's been a fun little romp through Jimmy style on electric Ladyland. As I say, I might not get the more soundscapey psychedelic numbers, but you can't argue with the guitar playing. The guy was at the top of his game and he was just on fire. Amazing stuff. So please do remember, like, share, subscribe. You can find me on Patreon, you can find me on Ko-Fi, you can find me on Subscribestar. Help support the channel if you enjoy what I'm doing. This is a small channel, it's a one-man operation. It's 2 mobile phones and a donated PC. Don't let these Hollywood production values fool you. All support is very much appreciated. And I will see you in the next one then. All the best. Take care.